you look back at your life and the people that you meet along your journey and how they define you. You never know how one meeting is going to change your life. So for me, when I say that, of course it makes you think about all about the Benjamins.
Right.
But it makes me think about the Notorious B.I.G. or as I got to know him, Chris. Because the thing was meeting him changed my life. And I know that sounds all grandiose, meeting Big changed your life, but let's think about it. If I don't interview Biggie 2 weeks after Ready to Die came out, on 220
for Vibe.
Actually it was for Spin Magazine.
For Spin.
For 226 St. James. What happened was I was supposed to write a piece on him for Spin Magazine. I go to 226 St. James, which is, that's his building, that's where he grew up. And so we're out there on the stoop. I get this incredible interview. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I think, Trife and Larceny came up and they wanted to borrow a gun to come to rob somebody.
Yeah.
And Big was like, I don't know where the gun is. And as soon as they left, he's like, I know exactly, Big, he's like, I know exactly where the gun is. but he was saying his whole point was that he wanted to use his success to change their life, to basically be a member of the community and use it to basically change the lives of people that had been written off. So that line, back in the days, our parents used to take care of us. Look at them now, they're even fucking scared of us. That line was real because he knew how his mother looked at him when he was making his transition, from being one of those stoop kids to kind of being a corner kid. Wow. And then at the same time, as he began to find real success, or the beginning of success in hip hop, knew how he was going to change their lives. But interviewing him on that day in '94 changed my life, because even though the piece never came out in Spin, because what happened, they were mad that I had written the Rolling Stone review Ready to Die, which was 4 stars. I'm just saying. But what happened was that interview and that trust that we gained in that interview led to me interviewing Big for Vibe, really the last month of his life out in LA. And the thing was that the same problems back then were, in terms of bootlegging, was the same now. Mm. And so they were so afraid that the record was going to leak. The only way to hear the record was Puff would only play the full record in New York at Daddy's house. And so the only thing I'd heard was Hypnotize, which at the time, I'll admit, I didn't like.
Really?
Because it was just, I didn't, Big was so far ahead, I didn't understand what he was doing, because with his rhyme style, Papa's been smooth since days of Underwood. It was like, it's such a different, flipped back style.
It was a new thing.
And that was, now, of course, the song's genius, but all he had at the time was the song. He was doing the video with Paul Hunter. And so I was on the set of the video, I was around him at the hotel. We just talked. And because we didn't have any music to talk about, we talked about his life. And so in talking about his life, after he was killed, those interviews became the cornerstone of the book that I wrote, Unbelievable, The Life, Death, and Afterlife, Notorious B.I.G. So if I don't meet Big, I don't write the book. If I don't write the book, I don't write the movie, Notorious, which I shared credit with Reggie Rock Bythewood. Yes. If that movie doesn't get made, that doesn't lead to me, writing for the show Southland, and then Southland led to everything else, including Ray Donovan, and finally having the opportunity to create Luke Cage as a TV series for Marvel and Netflix. So for me, that's why you have that picture of Big in Harlem's Paradise. It's not just because it was a great plot point, but it was also because of the fact that that's my homage to a man that changed my life.
Wow.
Yo,
the stories that you have are so great. I was sitting there listening, guys. Hi, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
We had to start because y'all just heard all that. Biggie changed your life, but he's always been, on our Hot 97 every day. That's my word. It's Biggie to us, a legend, but a friend to our new friend, Cheo, who is the creator, showrunner for Luke Cage.
Well, creator, executive producer, and showrunner.
Right. The man that's bringing you Luke Cage on Marvel on Netflix, that's coming September 30th, which is like basically tomorrow, but it's really not. It's September 30th.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
to
you.
Hot 97 to just bless us. This man is a blessing, for real, for real. Like the things that you say, the stories you have, the stories that you continue to tell and pass on to our generation are really important.
Well, see, but like we usually say, Pat, like, I'm not that old.
You're not that old, but we don't know what it's like to sit on a corner stoop with Biggie because he wasn't here when we know Notorious because of that you remembered and told that story.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because a lot of people just try to keep it, to themselves, but we need to know these things too. So today we're here to talk about Luke Cage, which is your new amazing project. Last night he had a dinner with all the cast, well, most of the cast, and it was really, really dope. And I just want to say I haven't been excited for a trailer or anything since like Straight Outta Compton came out. So I'm super excited about this. I haven't seen it, so I'm really excited. But tell me about how you got involved with this project, because we know you from Notorious, we know you from even NCIS, we know you from other projects. But how did this come to your lap?
Well, it was really the perfect opportunity because I was coming off of Ray Donovan. I did some last minute work on Straight Outta Compton because I've known Gary and Dre for actually forever. Yeah. So right around that time, the word got out that they were looking for somebody to have a take on Luke Cage because they wanted, they'd already set up Daredevil, Jessica Jones, so both are already in the works, and they were looking for someone to run Luke Cage. And I'm not only a hip hop head, I'm also a geek, and so my thing was like, I just asked my people, just give me a meeting, and I just went in there with just so much passion that I was lucky enough that they liked what I had to say, and so that led to me doing the show, and really just this opportunity. It's the opportunity not only to tell a superhero story and the evolution of a man, basically accepting the responsibility of being a hero. It's also the opportunity to tell the story of the community, tell a story of Harlem, tell a story about Black history, our place in the world and what's going on. The thing is, people are kind of calling this the Black Lives Matter superhero show, which we, of course, because of the imagery of seeing a bulletproof black man in a hoodie, we embrace that. Right. But at the same time, as I've also explained, all Black art has always been about our lives mattering. I mean, if we're talking about Zora Neale Hurston, if we're talking about James Baldwin, if we're talking about Ralph Ellison, Richard Wright, their novels and poetry was all about our lives having meaning in a world that always denigrated us. When you think about our music, it's always been about that. And so, really, all Black art, as far as I'm concerned, is about our lives mattering because they do.
It's sad in 2016 that we still have to say that, but we do because we see it all the time. And where Black men are being killed today, overnight someone was shot in LA, like Southern California. So it's really sad to see, but I am excited for this, especially because it's so timely, like you were saying.
Well, see, the reason you just heard me give that sigh is because it's like every day there's something else.
Literally.
And I don't want this to be timely. I want it to be played out. I want it to be like, oh man, it's like Luke Cage, that's played out because black men don't get shot anymore for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd much rather be an untimely show than be a timely show. I'd rather that the symbolism of having a bulletproof black man was irrelevant because black men don't get shot anymore.
That would be the dream, and hopefully this leads to that, because I mean, it's good to see a bulletproof person who's, who doesn't want to be a hero, especially when there's got a lot of young men who don't necessarily want to step up and have to say anything. Most kids just want to play basketball, do their thing, rock their hoodies, and be good, but it's going to be interesting to see how people respond to this project, just because it's going to be one of those things where they can escape to, especially in this time.
Well, but that's my thing. It's like, I mean, this show, because of what's been happening, you can't help but deal with the politics, and we embrace the politics, but I call this show inclusively black. Yeah. And what I mean by that is that we don't pander or soften our exploration of the black experience for anybody or any one audience. Yes. We just pull you in. Yeah. And, my thing about it is that in creating that world, we do it in such a way where we're not catering to anybody, but at the same time, when you watch the show, because of the storytelling, because of Mike Coulter's charisma as Luke Cage, it's the kind of show that just pulls people in. Yeah. And when it's kind of like, seeing a movie that you didn't think you were going to like because you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, but then you watch it and then it's all of a sudden just being in the movie just pulls you in. So like for me, a movie like City of God, you know, did that. Or, you know, if you like, for example, like I used to love like Hong Kong cinema, like John Woo's movies, like The Killer and Hard Boiled. It's just, it didn't matter that there were subtitles. It's just the action was so dope. You just get pulled into it. And so that's my whole thing. It's just like, yes, we deal with a lot of social issues. Yes, we're dealing with, you know, the reality of what's happening today in Harlem and around the world, around this country, honestly. But for the most part, it's a fun, kick-ass show. And I think that's what I really want people to leave with.
It just came together perfectly, and like you said, everything in your journey leads to the right place, the right time. And last night you talked about how the YouTube comments, you really love reading YouTube comments. You're like the only person I know that likes that, because they can be very hurtful, but...
Well, see, but it's fun, because you know what it is? It's like, I come from the era of like, you know, when you read the source and people write letters.
Okay, and it comes right to you.
But it's already like a month late.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or if you wrote an article and then you're reading letters about your article, I mean, at that point, it's
I
like...
did it, it's done.
You don't even care.
Right.
So it's just the instant connectivity and the fact that you can kind of have like a worldwide argument is great. So I don't even care if people like the show. I just like the back and forth, because if you don't like the show, then I'm going to come with my point, you're going to come with your point.
And you're going to be there for hours just like...
Yeah. I mean, but that's the fun part of it,
Yes.
you know. And that's really what's great about Netflix, is the fact that they're putting out a show like this, unadulterated blackness around the world. It's not that we got to blow up here and then maybe if we're lucky get some syndication and go elsewhere.
It's out.
We're hitting everywhere, day and date, September 30th, you know, around the world. And then you're going to get all those reactions. And then the interesting thing about YouTube is people actually have shows where they tape themselves reacting to the show and talk about it. It's just like, it's crazy.
And it's rude too, because sometimes if you want to look at like maybe a clip, you'll search a name and then it'll be like Luke Cage scene whatever 1 from episode 1, and you'll be like, oh yes, and then it's a person like, hello, I'm here, I'm upset, and you're like, I didn't ask you to talk about it. But one of the best things I think that you've said is that you've seen people say, where is the white cast? And that's so interesting, because we never asked that. But tell me about what is it like to read those comments, especially when, well, again, we're always the one person.
You know what it is that we're so underrepresented that we accept the fact that we're not necessarily going to be the majority or even part of the cast, but it's never prevented us from loving movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, or anything else. Even though in more recent iterations of those movies, they've been a lot more diverse. But we don't really get angry to the point where we're not going to watch something because of the fact that we're not represented. Because if that was the case, we wouldn't watch anything. You know, and so that's why when you see it flipped, where all of a sudden people are like, wait, there's all these black people, and where's the white cast member? It's like, I think that's the wrong approach, honestly. I think that people need to kind of open up. They need to open up to new possibilities, you know, and so that was one of the things that when people saw this, they're like, wait a minute, this is an all-black cast. It's like, it's not for me. I'm like, well, yeah, it is for you, because are you saying that Manhattan wasn't for me? Are you saying that Goodfellas wasn't for me? Are you saying that the Godfather wasn't for me? Because all these movies I learned from, all these movies I enjoyed. So when we kind of express ourselves in this world and diversify the world, what I'm trying to say is that, look, we might be throwing you in the deep end of the pool of the black experience, and you might thrash around for a minute, but if you can just learn to float and relax, it's all going to be good.
That's right.
So the thing is that I think rather than, you know, make it shallow, I think the main thing that we did, honestly, is just like, we hope that people just kind of let the show flow over them, you know, because that's really where the best experiences come from, is being outside of your comfort zone, but then looking around and realizing, hey, this is something new and I'm learning something, and this thing is not against me, but it's about something else, and so that if I open my mind, then I might learn something.
Don't sink, guys. It'll be okay. It's a really great project, and I think that's so dope that you did that, and especially since hip-hop is so mainstream now, like, you really can't say that you're so afraid of the black experience anymore, because you understand it if you're listening to it all the time, and we're in the top 40 all the time now, so they understand. I would hope that they wouldn't say something like, oh, it's not for me, because it's on Netflix. Like, if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't be on Netflix. It's
but I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, I think the worldwide approach is very important. I mean, I remember once I was in Jamaica with Jimmy Cliff at Pasa Pasa. We were like in Tivoli Gardens at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's just jumping off. And then you look around, all of a sudden, like there's these Japanese kids out of nowhere, and it isn't like that entirely black Jamaican audience there just looked at them and said, "Why are you here?" It was just, "You're here." And so that's the thing, is that I think that black culture, once given the opportunity, is embraced by the world because of the fact that I don't think the world looks at us as being a niche. I think if anything, they understand that virtually all popular culture comes from black culture, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's
Jazz,
so much of what we do comes from that. And
Yeah.
so this is the opportunity to embrace it and celebrate it on a high level, and also at the same time show that you can do a superhero show that's deeply a part of the black experience, but at the same time, don't get it twisted, this is a geek superhero show.
Right.
I mean, this is like, if you read the comics, you'll be rewarded for that, because it was always important. That's why it's Marvel's Luke Cage, because the Marvel is never left, behind. I mean, that's really the strength of Marvel Comics, is that they've always found ways to talk about the world within a comic book world. And so I'm just happy that they've opened up this for us to be able to do it like this.
Yes, yes. And you are, as a hip-hop head, proven. We all know that you've definitely had your hand in your head in hip-hop forever. But one of the best things about this project is the music.
Yeah.
So please tell them about the two legends that you brought on to create the score for Marvel's Luke Cage. Because, guys, it's amazing.
Well, Adrian Young and Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A
Yes.
Tribe Called Quest are our composers. So that just kind of shows you the level and the sophistication and the breadth of hip hop that we get into. But we also have live performances. I mean, so it's like we've got Faith Evans, we've got Jadena, we've got Charles Bradley, we've got the Delphonics,
Raphael
Sadiq. I mean, when you see the show, when you see the performances in the club, it's kind of our version of the Cotton Club. It's our version of New York Undercover, where, if you're old enough to remember New York Undercover, where
I love New York Undercover. I'm such a fan.
And of course, at the very end of the show, they're watching Mary J. Blige or anybody else. It kind of has that vibe, but kind of for a new generation.
Right.
Because the music is really an important, I call it our other special effect. Because when you see the power of the music matched with the imagery that we have in this show, like there's nothing like watching Luke Cage kick ass and then Bring the Ruckus, is playing, behind him. And so it's like, that's what I meant by the Wu-Tangification of the Marvel Universe, is the fact that we're bringing that attitude, to superheroes in a way that you haven't seen before.
So music is a big part. We all know this, and we're all super excited. But since you've been around hip hop for a long time, and you've seen it from when it was a baby to now, I would say it's a grown up. It's getting very grown now. What do you think about today's lyrical content? What do you think about today's hip hop? Because I noticed that you went back a little to make sure that it was a pure sound that we heard for Marvel's Luke Cage.
Big and Tupac, they were the thousandaires, and they paved the way for the millionaires. Now it's just like you have all these cats that are making money. It's not saying anything. There's always been a part of hip hop where people have made that criticism, but I think that this new generation, with the exception, of course, of like Kendrick Lamar and Cole and people that Pusha T, like there's still people, lyricists, that still kind of care about that. I think what it is, I wouldn't make the criticism of saying, how some people are just saying it's garbage.
Right.
My thing is that I think they've forgotten the power of the music. They've made money from the music. They live in the lifestyle, but they've forgotten about what the music can do towards uplifting our minds. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I remember when hip hop would send you to the library and not just a strip club. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think the thing is you need the balance. Yeah. Because trust me, I mean, there's nothing wrong with strip club anthem.
Nothing.
But at the same time, it's like you also, like, you need the Rakims, the KRSs, the Chuck Ds to make you think about something else, because, our experience and what we're going through right now, this is when you need hip hop. You need hip hop to talk about what's happening with this election. You need hip hop to talk about what's happening with these shootings. Right. I mean, that was the one thing that you could always expect, is that the music was always going to give voice to, what's happening in the world. And I think that with a black president, black attorney general, this new generation growing up with that being the norm, they kind of take for granted, like they're like, wait, there's black politicians, so why do I need to be a politician? I'm just a musician, as opposed to saying like, my voice can be heard in ways that the presidents can't. So let me say something about it, because I don't necessarily have to worry about a political agenda. I can say I can say my truth. You know?
Yeah. Yep, that's so important. That's exactly what I would always tell people. And a lot of up and coming rappers and a lot of people watch this YouTube, and we got over 1 million people who do tune in every day. So there'll be a lot of people who look up to you, because I think the fact that you were able to push this project, and last night you said it's 98% of what you intended to create, which is amazing. What do you tell people who are struggling with their own vision, and they're in the middle of a fight, they might want to give up, about getting to this promised land of creativity?
That technology has broken down any barriers that were, prevented us from making movies or our own shows. The fact of the matter is now that back in the day, like 30 years ago, when Spike Lee did She's Gotta Have It, that movie in black and white cost him over $100,000. Wow. Now, with the kind of camera you can go and get from Best Buy, you could make the same movie for like $2,000. Wow. I mean, you have directors like Matthew Cherry. He shot an entire feature film with a few iPhones. The cameras are so powerful that the only thing preventing you from making a movie or making a TV show is your imagination, from the standpoint of writing scripts and just using what's around you. Like the same way, like for example, if you saw a movie like El Mariachi, which, I mean, famously Robert Rodriguez made for like $7,000 back in 20 years ago. Now with these phones and now with everything else, you can basically, I say just go ahead and do it. It's not about entering contests and people say, I have something for a short. Just write it.
Let's do it.
Write it, get your cell phone out, use your environment. You need actors, grab your cousin.
Everybody wants that.
Because the thing is that like people are now so used to being filmed that you can kind of capture something. And I think the thing is we shouldn't be looking at our lack of opportunity instead of making our own opportunities. I mean, fact of the matter is, with Facebook Live, we've seen how Facebook Live is capturing raw truth.
Right.
So essentially, you have a television studio in your pocket.
Wow.
Even looking at what's happening like right now with this, it's like, the one thing I've noticed over the years is that the cameras keep getting smaller and more powerful. So if you want to start your own show, you can have your own YouTube channel. It's really just about using that and leveraging that towards getting something else.
That's right.
We all gotta kind of channel our inner James Brown.
That's right.
No one's ever gonna give it to us. We gotta take it. And that's just honestly what it is. I'm lucky that I have this opportunity with this show to have a real budget and real commitment, but at the same time, that shouldn't prevent the next generation of coming up with something that will put them on the path.
That's so good. Well, thank you so much. We have a real fan in the building. Any questions? Come on, real fan.
Real fan.
Before we go, Jameer.
What's up, man?
How are you?
What's good?
Very excited about the project.
Yes. Hold on. Let me closer to your mic. Okay, so with all the black characters and superheroes in the Marvel universe, you got Falcon and War Machine and Bishop. Why do you think it was so critical and important for people, Marvel and you, to tell Luke Cage's story?
Well, because Luke Cage is a superhero that is black and doesn't happen to be black. And I think because he's a community-based superhero, it doesn't wear a mask and doesn't have a cape. He basically has a direct interaction. So part of the show is, how does the ecology of a neighborhood change when you have a bulletproof black man? How do the streets deal with that? How do the police deal with that? How does that change a community that's afraid to talk out about what's happening? How does it empower them to really do something? Because there isn't a single black man that's ever stepped forward to change things that hasn't put himself at great sacrificial, at great risk. I don't care if it's Medgar Evers, I don't care if it's Martin Luther King, I don't care if it's Malcolm X. We have a fictional character that's bulletproof, so it eliminates certain elements, but still taking on a community is a great importance. And so part of what this show is really about, it's how long is it going to be before you step up? How many things do you have to see that you can't change, but you realize that you can be a part of the change, even though you don't want to come out of the shadows, even though you don't want to deal with it. what's it going to take for you to finally step up and do something about it? And that's really the evolution that Luke Cage takes in the first 2 episodes, and then ultimately for the next 11, you know, really the show deals with the consequences of those actions. But that's what makes him different, is that, you know, Luke's not rich, he doesn't live in Wakanda, he doesn't live, you know, in the Baxter building, you know what I'm saying? He lives in Harlem. You know,
Harlem.
You can find him in the barbershop. And so that's really, I think, the thing that makes him different. That's really also what makes all the quote-unquote street-level heroes of the Defenders different, because of the fact that, you know, you can get to Daredevil or find him. Jessica Jones is out there. And so that's what makes it different. They're not really fighting aliens. They're fighting for people in New York. And I think that's really kind of what unites all of them.
That's so awesome. Good job. Good question, guy. Well, again, Cheo, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you.
Again, September 30th, Netflix, Marvel's Luke Cage, y'all. We
Hashtag Luke Cage.
Hashtag Luke Cage.
Yeah, hashtag Luke Cage. Hashtag Sweet Christmas. The 30th. Please watch the show.
A lot of people going to lose their jobs because they're going to call out. They're going to be like, I was up all night watching Luke Cage. But no, don't do that. That's bad advice.
Well, I'm going to say do you.
Do you? He's not going to say not do that. But we're definitely going to be talking about this for a long time. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. We pushing it on your Hot 97 every day. You're definitely going to be back. So thank you, Cheo.
Thank you very much.
And you guys, check it out. See you later.
On Netflix. On the 30th. Netflix and chill and watch Luke Cage. That's my word.